optimistic person, I think, and I'm not very moody, a very person that hold on to depression and so forth. So I'm pretty, how do you call, flexible and open, and I'm a happy person normally. I don't dwell, I don't suffer and moan and whinge, as they call it over here. I'm not a complainer. I'm basically an up person. Even in my worst moments there, I still found time to laugh and loud. It's my nature.
They called her the Queen of Rock and Roll, the woman who made the entire world bow to her voice and her strength. But behind that glory was a cruel truth Tina Turner carried all her life. She was beaten, betrayed, and turned into a puppet by the very industry that once worshipped her. And when she finally escaped that hell, Tina said that music doesn't just create legends, it feeds demons. Before she passed away, she revealed a list that had never been made public. 10 artists she believed were the embodiment of evil, those who turned music into a weapon that killed souls. Who were they? Icons or faces of the devil? And what drove Tina Turner, one of the greatest legends in history, to speak out before her final breath? The truth is about to be revealed. 1. Ike Turner, the man who turned love into a prison. The first name on Tina Turner's list was no stranger to the world. He was the man who discovered her, loved her, controlled her, and nearly destroyed her. His name was Ike Turner, a man praised as the father of rock and roll, but in Tina's story, he was the first embodiment of evil in music. It all began like a fairy tale. In 1957, a 17-year-old girl named Anna Mae Bullock walked into the Club Manhattan in St. Louis, where Ike was playing guitar with his band, the Kings of Rhythm. When she asked to sing, Ike fell silent, and the entire room froze. Her voice was wild and sorrowful, carrying the very soul of the American South. He pulled her close, and from that night on, her life no longer belonged to her. Ike changed her name to Tina Turner, a name he could legally own. He said it was for marketing, but in truth, it was a form of possession. Tina was no longer a person, she was a product, and Ike and Tina Turner became the most powerful duo in rhythm and blues, symbols of energy, passion, and success. Together, they created timeless hits like A Fool in Love, Proud Mary, It's Gonna Work Out Fine. But behind the applause was a relationship warped by power, jealousy, and obsession. According to those who worked with them, Ike couldn't handle Tina's growing fame. He watched her every move, even controlling who she could speak to. Band members described Ike as having a stare so cold it could silence a room. When tensions rose, he would smash instruments, stop shows mid-performance, or turn the studio into his personal battleground. The more success they had, the deeper Ike sank into drugs and paranoia. He became convinced that everyone, record labels, the press, even Tina, was plotting against him. Rumors spread that he had forced Tina to sign contracts binding her to the group, making it nearly impossible for her to leave without losing all rights to perform. Tina lived between two worlds, a global star on stage and a terrified woman off it. The breaking point came in 1966 when producer Phil Spectre invited Tina to record River Deep, Mountain High. Spectre insisted Ike stay out of the studio. The session lasted 22 hours, with Tina singing as if her very soul was on fire. The result was a masterpiece celebrated across Europe, but it crushed Ike. Seeing Tina praised without him humiliated him, and he spiraled into rage and instability. By the mid-1970s, Ike's mind was consumed by drugs and delusions. He ruled his band like a cult, and no one dared defy him. Tina was physically and emotionally drained, performing just to keep peace within the group. In 1976, during a tour stop in Dallas, everything exploded. After a violent argument, Tina realized that if she didn't leave, she would die. When Ike fell asleep, she fled the hotel. No money, no luggage, only courage. She ran through the night to a small motel, begging for shelter with nothing but a gas card. When the sun rose, Ike and Tina Turner was no more. After Tina left, Ike collapsed completely. He lost his contracts, his reputation, and his band. In the years that followed, he tried to return to music, but addiction and his past haunted him. In 1986, Tina released her memoir, I, Tina, revealing everything. The world was shocked. Ike denied it all, but the powerful man he once was had already become a ghost of scandal and loneliness. In 2007, he died at 76 from drug complications. To the public, Ike Turner was a genius who helped birth rock and roll. But to Tina, he was her deepest scar, the man who turned love into a prison, music into fear, and taught her that in this industry, evil doesn't come from strangers. It comes from the one you love the most. 2. Phil Spectre, the genius with a gun. The second name on Tina Turner's list wasn't a lover, but a man who showed her that genius and madness could live in the same body. His name was Phil Spectre, the legendary producer of the 1960s who changed the world's sound with his wall of sound. But behind the glory was a mind consumed by control and obsession. From an early age, Spectre was called a sound wizard. He crafted explosive recordings, sonic walls that felt like detonations in small spaces. He didn't just produce music, he ruled it. Every note, every drum beat, every breath from a singer had to follow his vision exactly. And anyone who didn't obey would regret it. When Spectre heard Tina Turner's voice on the radio in 1966, he said he'd found the volcano he'd been searching for. He approached Ike Turner with a strange offer, $20,000 in exchange for keeping Ike out of the studio. He wanted Tina's voice, but not Ike's shadow. Then came the recording of River Deep, Mountain High, an exhausting 22-hour session. Spectre filled the Gold Star studio with dozens of microphones and over 20 musicians, turning it into a maze of sound. The doors were locked, the clocks removed, and all lights focused on Tina. She sang, and sang again and again. Each time, Spectre tweaked the mix, added drums, boosted the strings, and raised the volume until the walls shook. No one dared move. No one dared ask the time. The air grew thick, the room heavy with smoke. Spectre paced around the mixing console, hands trembling, eyes wide, breathing hard. On the table beside him, a gun gleamed under the yellow light. He didn't speak, just touched it occasionally, a silent reminder that he was in control. When the session finally ended, everyone was drained. Tina's voice was nearly gone, but Spectre stood still, smiled, and said it was the perfect sound. To him, it was perfection. To Tina, it was 22 hours of fear and submission. The song became a European masterpiece, but failed in the U.S. It was a devastating blow to Spectre's pride. From that moment, he withdrew from the industry, isolating himself in his Los Angeles mansion, a fortress of paranoia. He built high walls, covered rooms in mirrors, and lived inside the echoes of his own creations. Visitors said he would walk through hallways with a gun in his hand, speaking to the walls, convinced the sounds were speaking back. But his madness didn't stop there. Musicians later admitted he would lock singers in studios, force them to perform in darkness, even make them cry for authentic emotion. For Spectre, every song was a war, and he always won, no matter the cost to others. The horror reached its peak in 2003, when actress Lana Clarkson was found dead inside his mansion. Spectre was arrested on the spot. Police described the house as a museum of paranoia, mirrored walls, bullet casings, old photographs, and cassette tapes stacked to the ceiling. In 2009, he was convicted of manslaughter, ending the career of a man once hailed as a genius. Phil Spectre died in prison in 2021. To many, he remained a legend. But to Tina Turner, he was a refined version of Ike Turner. No fists, no shouting, just control, fear, and power over the human soul. The story of Phil Spectre isn't just the tragedy of one man. It's a reminder that madness often hides behind the title of genius, and the sounds that captivate the world may be born from breaths of pure terror. 3. Berry Gordy, the tycoon of enslaved souls. The next man didn't need violence to destroy anyone. He only needed a smile, a contract, and a pen. Berry Gordy, founder of Motown Records, the business genius who turned black music into a global empire. But beneath the glamour, he was a master manipulator who bound souls with cold laws and terrifying silence. The story began in Detroit, 1959. Inside a small house at 2648 West Grand Boulevard, Berry Gordy created Motown, a place he called the Hit Factory. He recruited singers, taught them how to talk, smile, walk, even how to answer interviews. They weren't just artists, they were products. In Gordy's system, everyone was measured by profit, and that made him one of the most powerful men in American music history. But power always casts shadows. Inside the Motown building, dozens of artists signed contracts every day without realizing what they were giving away. Each agreement stated that every song, every recording, every performance right belonged to the company. Forever. Anyone who resisted vanished from the industry overnight. Florence Ballard, the founder of the Supremes, was the first example. When she questioned missing payments, Gordy had her removed from the group within a week. Her fame disappeared, and she drowned herself in alcohol and despair. She died in poverty at 32, while Diana Ross, Gordy's protege and rumored lover, continued to shine on the biggest stages. The relationship between Gordy and Ross was an open secret in Detroit. When the Supremes reached their peak, he allowed Ross to go solo under a multi-million-dollar contract. Everyone knew Motown was no longer just a record company. It was Berry Gordy's kingdom, and Diana Ross was its queen. Years later, Ross gave birth to her first son, and though neither ever confirmed it, the media believed Gordy was the father. But Diana Ross wasn't the only one. Many others shared similar fates. Marvin Gaye, the soul of Motown, once had his album What's Going On blocked by Gordy, who called it too political, too painful, and bad for the company's image. When Gaye insisted, Gordy called it an act of rebellion. The album went on to become one of the greatest in history, but their relationship shattered. Gaye left Motown in bitterness, sued, and fell into debt, a punishment many believed was Motown's silent revenge. By the 1970s, when Motown moved to Los Angeles, Gordy's power peaked. He expanded into film, television, and mingled with Hollywood elites. While he celebrated with the new stars, the old Motown legends faded away. Mary Wells, voice of My Guy, lost all her royalties. David Ruffin of The Temptations was fired for demanding fair pay. The very people who built Motown became its ghosts. In the early 1970s, Berry Gordy approached Tina Turner, who had just left Ike and was seeking a new path. He offered her a management deal, promising to make her the queen of Motown. But when he realized Tina wasn't someone he could control, the meeting ended coldly. Before she left, he told her, "No one survives alone in this business." To Tina, that wasn't advice. It was a warning. Looking back, Tina said Berry Gordy represented a different kind of power, one that didn't need blood or screams. He used paperwork, signatures, and silence. His empire ran like a perfect machine, but it crushed the souls trapped inside. Motown today is still celebrated as an American cultural treasure, but behind the lights lie countless untold stories, hidden contracts, quiet deaths, and artists who once shined before vanishing without a trace. Berry Gordy is honored as the man who opened doors for black music, but in Tina Turner's memory, he was the cold face of evil, the man who turned passion into profit and artists into souls forever bound to music they no longer owned. 4. James Brown, the king on stage, the devil backstage. Now we come to a legend before whom the whole world once bowed. James Brown, the godfather of soul, the man who helped shape modern American music. But Tina once said no one truly knew James except those who stood behind the curtains. Because when the lights went out, the saint of the stage became the devil backstage. In 1968, Tina Turner and her band joined James Brown on tour, one of the biggest musical events of that decade. On stage, he was a god of energy, dressed in a blazing red suit, dancing like fire, making crowds scream. But the moment he stepped backstage, the air changed completely. He demanded everyone stand when he walked by. No one could speak without his permission, and if anyone dared laugh while he was talking, they were immediately thrown out. One night in Atlanta, as Tina was getting ready to perform, Brown noticed one of her dancers laughing during his rehearsal. He stopped, hurled a microphone straight at the girl, and the room went dead silent. Tina rushed over to intervene, but froze when she saw his eyes. They weren't the eyes of an artist. They were the eyes of a man who believed he had the power of life and death over anyone around him. Tina said that after that show, she saw what the audience never did. James Brown was possessed by power so deeply, he had lost his humanity. He couldn't stand not being in control. Even with his own band, he fined musicians on the spot for being offbeat by a single second. A James Brown concert wasn't a celebration of music, it was a display of domination. By the mid-1970s, Brown's life had become a downward spiral of addiction. Cocaine and delusion made him unpredictable. Once, he stopped his car in the middle of the road just to scream at his driver for playing the wrong song. Another time, he forced his band to play all night because, as he said, the sound hasn't reached God yet. His outbursts grew more frequent, and the title, Godfather of Soul, slowly turned into a reminder of a genius lost in his own divine illusion. Then came 1988. Brown was arrested after leading police on a high-speed chase through Georgia. Gun in hand, drugs in the car. The image of him in a prison jumpsuit, head bowed, aired on every news channel. The world couldn't believe that the cultural icon had become a criminal. When released, he claimed to have been reborn, but the truth was, he never escaped his demons. Tina Turner not only witnessed his downfall, but also felt the shadow of James Brown on her own path. Both carried wild, burning stage energy. But Brown turned that energy into control. He believed he was music itself, a god everyone must obey. Tina knew the price of that belief. She had lived it under another man with the same delusion. In his final years, James Brown lived alone in his South Carolina mansion. He faced lawsuits, financial disputes, and rumors that he'd been poisoned, dying on Christmas night, 2006. No one knows if he found peace, only that the voice that once set the world ablaze faded into darkness. Tina Turner called it the price of a man who thought he was God. And in her eyes, James Brown wasn't evil because he was cruel, but because he believed the spotlight was the light of heaven, when in truth, it was the fire that burned his soul. 5. Diana Ross, the Queen of Betrayal. On Tina Turner's list, the person who hurt her most wasn't the man who beat her, but the woman who once stood beside her under the same lights, sharing the same title, Queen. That woman was Diana Ross, the flawless face of Motown glory, adored across America as the embodiment of beauty, talent, and power. But to Tina, Ross represented a different kind of evil, one wrapped in fame, applause, and a perfect smile. Both women came from poverty. Both fought prejudice. But when the spotlight opened, Ross chose to climb through calculation, while Tina climbed through pain and work. Their paths collided in Hollywood, where Motown ruled and Gordy reigned from the shadows like a king without a crown. In the late 1960s, during a Motown gala, Tina, then at her peak with Ike Turner, was invited to open the show. Diana Ross arrived later in a glittering silver gown, flanked by assistants. When Tina finished her set, Ross took the stage, grabbed the microphone from the host, and congratulated her, "Dear colleague." The crowd applauded, but those nearby noticed Ross's eyes, cold and hollow. She signaled the band to change the song and began singing over Tina's closing notes. The audience froze. Tina knew instantly this wasn't a mistake. It was a declaration of power. From that night on, Gordy banned Tina from any show featuring Ross. TV producers were quietly told the two were too similar in image, a polite excuse to keep Ross alone at the top. While Tina exhausted herself surviving Ike, Ross graced the covers of Time, Vogue, and launched a solo career fully backed by Gordy, Tina's former lover. When Tina finally escaped Ike and fell into crisis, Ross was at the height of her fame. In 1977, during a live broadcast in New York, the host mentioned Tina Turner's attempt at a comeback. Ross smiled, looked straight into the camera and said, "Everyone has their time." The studio laughed. Tina was devastated, not by humiliation, but by realization. Diana Ross didn't need to destroy anyone with violence. She only had to stand in the light and let others fade into the dark. Years later, when Tina rose again with her Private Dancer album, 1984, and reclaimed her throne, the media compared the two women side by side. Ross stayed silent, but at major events, she always left before Tina's performance. The press called it the Cold War of the Queens. It all reached its peak in 1991. Tina Turner was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Every colleague sent flowers or letters, except Diana Ross. When asked, Ross's publicist simply said she was busy performing in Las Vegas. But everyone knew it was no coincidence. Tina never publicly attacked Ross, but those close to her said her eyes would turn distant and sad whenever Ross's name was mentioned. To Tina, Diana Ross wasn't an enemy. She was a symbol of the deepest kind of betrayal, the kind hidden behind a smile. If Ike Turner made Tina fear men, Diana Ross made her lose faith in women. Because in that world, evil didn't always wear a fist. Sometimes it wore a gown, walked a red carpet, and was called by one name only: Queen. 6. Rick James, the genius consumed by desire. Rick James was once hailed as the king of funk, a wild cultural icon of the 1980s. But to Tina Turner, he wasn't a star. He was proof of what happens when a brilliant soul burns too long in its own fire. In 1981, at a Grammy after-party in Los Angeles, Tina met Rick James for the first time. He wore a red leather jacket, layers of gold chains, and carried a dangerous charisma. When Rick walked through a crowd, people stepped aside. He wasn't charming, he was magnetic, with an energy that felt almost unsafe. Tina later said his eyes were darker than the room. At that time, Rick James was untouchable. His hit Super Freak was dominating the world. MTV played him non-stop, and magazines called him the last untamed flame of funk. But behind the lights were endless nights of cocaine, alcohol, and chaos. Journalists described his Hollywood Hills mansion as a place without time. Curtains always drawn, neon lights burning 24 hours, guests wandering in and out, never sober. By the mid-1980s, Rick James's empire began to crumble. Collaborators left. His label dropped him. Instead of stopping, Rick dove deeper into addiction. He was arrested multiple times for violent outbursts, property damage, hotel fights, assaults. Newspapers called him the most lost soul in American music. Then came 1991, the scandal that destroyed him. Rick James and his girlfriend Tanya Hijazi were arrested in Los Angeles after being accused of kidnapping and assaulting 2 women. The story exploded. Victims described him as high for days, detached from reality. The mugshot of Rick James, in a prison suit, his signature braids hanging over a hollow face, appeared on every front page. The funk legend had become his own cautionary tale. He was convicted and served over 2 years in prison. When released, he tried to return to music, but his career was gone. Concerts were empty, headlines gone. His body was failing after years of abuse. In August 2004, Rick James was found dead in his sleep at 56. The autopsy listed heart failure, with traces of drugs still in his system. His death closed a dark chapter in funk history. Tina Turner didn't judge him. She said he was a child of his era, a man whose creative energy had spun out of control and devoured him. To her, Rick James represented the evil of addiction, when talent becomes twisted by desire and endless craving. A radiant soul burned alive by its own fire. 7. Quincy Jones, the manipulator in the shadows. No one in the music industry has wielded more lasting influence than Quincy Jones. He was the architect behind Thriller, the best-selling album of all time, behind the Olympic opening ceremony, behind dozens of Grammys. But to Tina Turner, Quincy was the man who knew how to own souls without ever touching them. In the 1980s, when Tina was finally free from Ike's darkness, Quincy Jones approached her with a tempting offer. He said she needed professional hands to guide her global comeback. By then, Quincy was Hollywood's most powerful producer. A single phone call from him could make or break a career. Tina met him privately in Beverly Hills. The room gleamed with gold records and photos of stars like Michael Jackson, Donna Summer, and Lionel Richie. Quincy handed her an international career plan, along with a condition: he would have total creative control over her music and image. She read it carefully, then stayed silent. It was a perfect deal, except for one thing. Tina Turner would no longer be Tina Turner. She refused, and within weeks, strange things began happening. Concerts were canceled, TV appearances postponed, record offers quietly withdrawn. No one said it out loud, but everyone knew. Crossing Quincy Jones meant disappearing from the system. This wasn't just rumor. Artists from Michael Jackson to Lionel Richie had hinted that Quincy's reach went far beyond music. After Thriller, he was seen as an untouchable godfather of American entertainment, running labels, media networks, sponsors, even political connections. Tina chose independence, but she never forgot that moment. She said Quincy didn't need violence. He ruled with intellect, charm, and the illusion of safety he gave others. Everyone who worked with him thought they were being guided, until they realized they were pawns on his board. To the world, Quincy Jones is a genius, a living legend. But in Tina's memory, he was the man in the shadows, a kind of power you never see, but always feel. No threats, no shouting, no harm. Just a smile, and the system moved around him. On Tina Turner's list, Quincy wasn't the worst, but he was the one who frightened her the most. Because he proved that evil doesn't need cruelty. It only needs intelligence and the cold confidence to make people believe they're acting by their own will. 8. David Bowie, the man who danced with darkness. There was one artist who frightened Tina not through violence, but through the chill of his presence. That was David Bowie. He didn't strike or shout. He manipulated the world with a supernatural charm. When they collaborated on Tonight in 1985, Tina had just escaped her years of torment with Ike. She thought she was working with a friend, a genius, but the closer she got, the colder she felt. Bowie's mismatched eyes, one blue, one gray, seemed empty. He spoke little, stared long, and moved as if he'd stepped out of a dream no one else could understand. By then, the music world was full of rumors. Bowie believed he was haunted by demons, scattered salt around his pool to ward them off, and held midnight rituals with candles and reversed sound recordings. A studio engineer once claimed to have seen Bowie standing in a trance, drawing Kabbalistic symbols on the wall and singing as if summoning something. Tina attended a London party where Bowie performed what he called a sound ritual. The lights went out. The room went silent. A deep bass throbbed through the air as smoke drifted around him. Bowie stood in the center, eyes closed, moving slowly as if possessed. When the music stopped, he opened his eyes and smiled. No one clapped. Tina said she felt chills as if she just watched a soul leave its body. To her, Bowie embodied the evil of an artist who believed that art only mattered once it crossed moral boundaries. He didn't kill anyone, but he killed innocence in music. When Bowie died in 2016, the world called him a genius. Tina simply said, He saw too much, and he never came back. 9. Prince, the man who made himself God. If David Bowie played with darkness, Prince lived in it. To Tina Turner, he wasn't just a fellow artist. He was the final warning. When a musician believes he is God, art will one day claim his life back. Tina met Prince during a European tour in the early 1980s. He appeared like a purple phantom on stage, light glowing from behind him, his face cold, his body moving as if guided by something unseen. When the concert ended, Prince vanished before anyone could even say goodbye. Paisley Park, his legendary mansion, was his private universe, a place where everything operated by the will of one man. Locked doors, drawn curtains, secret schedules. Prince wrote, recorded, and produced his music entirely on his own. Anyone who missed a single note was fired instantly. A former assistant once said, "He didn't need anyone, just himself and the echo of his own voice." Prince discovered and molded several young women into stars: Vanity, Apollonia Cotero, Sheila E., Carmen Electra. Each story began like a dream and ended like a nightmare. Vanity, his first muse and lover, was given her stage name, a band, a wardrobe, even a way to smile. But when she demanded freedom, Prince cut all contact, reclaimed her songs, and erased her name from his projects. She fell into addiction, lost everything, and died in 2016, just months before he did. Apollonia, star of Purple Rain, said Prince controlled every breath. He forbade her from dating, from speaking to the press, from making choices without him. When the film ended, he left her the night of the premiere. Sheila E., the most talented drummer in his circle, said Prince wanted to own me like a song. He dictated her lyrics, her sound, even her clothes. When she finally signed a solo deal, Prince said nothing. He simply disappeared. But that power came with a price. Years of dancing in high heels left Prince with crippling hip pain. To endure it, he relied on painkillers and then became dependent. His doctor admitted Prince used fake names to fill prescriptions. The more it hurt, the more he took. The more he took, the more he performed. On April 21, 2016, Prince was found unconscious in the elevator at Paisley Park. The autopsy revealed fentanyl, a painkiller 50 times stronger than morphine. He died alone in a locked mansion, surrounded by thousands of unreleased songs. Tina Turner never forgot the shock of that moment. To her, Prince was the evil of total obsession. He didn't just destroy others, he destroyed himself. 10. Michael Jackson, the fallen angel. For Tina Turner, evil didn't always have a monstrous face. Sometimes it wore the face of a boy who once made the whole world cry. Michael Jackson, the man the world called the king of pop. But in Tina's eyes, he was the most terrifying proof that the music industry can devour even angels if it chooses to. She once saw Michael backstage in 1988, thin, trembling, eyes so dark they seemed empty. Just a few years later, the world was shaken when police raided his Neverland estate over allegations of child abuse. The dreamlike mansion filled with toys and teddy bears became a crime scene. Tina said, "That boy once sang to save the world, but the world turned him into a monster." To her, Michael was the final result of evil in music, where talent is exploited, the soul is crushed, and fame itself becomes punishment. So what do you think? Were Michael Jackson and the other legends on this list victims of fame, or proof that no one reaches glory without trading a piece of their soul? Leave your thoughts in the comments and stay tuned for more untold secrets in the next videos.